beautiful little unicorns, and welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time that I have the pleasure to introduce myself to you, I'm Vanessa and I, and welcome to the fam. So today we are out in the beautiful nature again, and we're going to be talking about how people perceive you. So today's pick a card reading is going to help you figure out exactly what first impression that you make on people, as well as what their thoughts are, just everything that they're thinking about but not saying. So in order to help you get into all of the nitty-gritty little details of this subject, I have prepared 4 groups that you can choose from, and I would like you to pick one of these 4 groups intuitively. So pick whichever crystal that you feel is the closest representation of yourself. So you may feel like the essence of the Smoky quartz really captures the essence of who you are, or you may feel like the orange calcite really brings forth that vital energy that is you. So whichever stone that you feel resonates with you as a person, pick that stone. So the 4 groups that I have prepared for you are as follows. We have the Smoky quartz for group number 1. We have the red Jasper for group number 2. We have the orange calcite for group number 3, as well as the Pyrite for group number 4. But the timestamps can be found down below in the description box, as well as pinned to the comment section, so all you need to do is click your corresponding timestamp and you will be fast forwarded to your reading. And if this is in fact the first time that you're tuned into one of my videos, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, as well as turn on your notification bell. That way you will never miss another reading. So anyways, you guys, I want to keep this intro nice and short so we can spend more time within your individual readings. So I will be starting off with the first group, which corresponds to the Smoky quartz, and to all of my other lovely groups, I will catch you at the click of your timestamp. Hello group number 1, and welcome to your reading. So you chose the Smoky quartz group number 1, which is such a gorgeous crystal. It is also one that helps you clear any type of negativity away from your life, which may be exactly why you chose it. But let's move into your reading to figure out exactly how people perceive you. So we have nourishment as well as release. So one thing that I can see here in nourishment is that people perceive you to be somebody with a lot of depth. You're somebody who has a lot of interesting things to say once you get going and once you feel comfortable. As I can see here in the waning crescent 4, that release is a big part of who you are. So once you get into the motion of really pouring out your heart, I see in the waxing crescent 5, which corresponds to nourishment, that you're really able to just show what you're made of, as well as show your deepest and sometimes even darkest thoughts. Okay, so you don't hold back, and you're not the kind of person who cares so much about public image. That is the type of impression that you make, but nevertheless people do feel as though, you know, you like to talk about what matters to you. You like to talk about things that you feel really matter in this world. So moving further into your reading, we have the waning gibbous 6, which is all about wisdom. So people see you as somebody who is wise. People perceive you to be somebody who has a lot of knowledge over a lot of different topics. And one thing that I can see in the waning crescent 4 is, again, they like to get you to a point where you start talking. So it may be a little bit difficult to actually become your friend, to actually garner your trust and your respect, but once it is there, you're very happy to share all of the lessons that life has taught you, as well as give people advice relevant to their situation. So people perceive you to be somebody who isn't selfish, but quite on the contrary, you're the type of person who likes to help others out with the lessons that you have been so blessed to have already learned in your lifetime. Next up, we have the green corn moon. So in the green corn moon, I see that people perceive you as somebody who is very patient, somebody who is willing to wait for rewards, who is okay with delayed gratification, and therefore people see you as somebody who has a lot of potential, because one thing about potential is that you have to be okay with delayed gratification if you want to make big things happen, and people perceive you as somebody who is mature enough to do so, somebody who is mature enough to not want everything handed to them immediately. And that probably ties into them respecting the fact that your knowledge comes from a place of having been able to really experience things rather than having everything handed over to you. So we have a card here that clearly wants to speak within your reading, which is Diana. And Diana is all about the fact that your focus is really on your intentions, is really on the things that you desire to create and desire to do. I see here that people see you as somebody who sets their sights very high, and that you kind of expect the best possible outcome. So you're the person who sees the glass as half full instead of half empty, which is exactly what people think every time you're talking about work ventures, every time you're talking about personal accomplishments that you are trying to have as part of your bucket list, all crossed off, if you know what I mean. Next up, we have Mercury. So in Mercury, I see here that people perceive you to be the type of person who speaks up with love. So you never speak up from a place of just wanting to, not the type to speak up from a place that is selfish or from a place where you're just trying to kind of do things for your own personal gain, but instead you look at a situation objectively and you speak up from a place of love, as well as wanting the best possible outcome for every single other participant in the situation. Then we have soul expansion next. So in soul expansion, one thing that I can see here is that people see you as somebody who is very spiritual, who has a very vast expansion of knowledge when it comes to the spiritual realm, which can make you very mysterious and in a way hyper conscious. So somebody who is perceived as knowing exactly what is going on in their spiritual realm and knowing exactly what, wow, these birds are so chatty. I wonder what they're saying. But yeah, people perceive you as someone who understands why their thoughts are a certain way, and as somebody who is pretty enlightened. But let's move further into your reading. So we have respect next, as well as seek seclusion. So people perceive you to be pretty much like an introvert, and people respect you because you don't need to make yourself the center of attention. Actually, quite the contrary. You prefer to say what needs to be said and then be left alone. That is how people perceive you as, and people see and seek seclusion that you are okay in social situations, but they feel as though you don't like it. They feel as though you would rather be somewhere else, which may be very true, group number one. Let me know down below if that really resonates with you. And they feel as though you're just the type of person that thrives when there is like more peace and stillness instead of you being the focal point of the conversation. Then we have listen to your body. So last but not least, group number one thing that I can see here in how people perceive you is that they feel as though you're very connected with your body, you're very connected to your body, and that you most likely take good care of your body. So people may find you physically attractive, or just that the care that you take of your body shows, and it's something that just kind of is present in every move that you make. The fact that you listen to when your body needs more sleep, more nourishment. They find you to be somebody who has a healthy glow and a healthy look. Now, group number one, this is how other people see you and perceive you. If you in fact do not work out and do not do anything to attain that healthy glow, just consider yourself lucky and fortunate that that's how people perceive you. But also, as a little piece of advice, just, you know, from the unicorn mom, make sure that you are taking care of yourself, and make sure that that glow doesn't fade due to you just taking it for granted. So group number one, we are now at the end of your reading. If you made it all the way to this point, leave a little moon emoji down below in the comment section to let me as well as others know. I hope that you're doing amazing and taking care of yourself, and I'll speak to you next time. Hello, group number two, and welcome to your reading. So you chose the red Jasper, group number two, which is a really revitalizing and re-energizing stone, which may be because you're a fire sign that you felt drawn to the stone, but it could also just be because you liked its physical appearance. But let's move further into your reading in order to figure out exactly how people perceive you. So we have the waning crescent too, as well as the full moon. One thing that I can see in the full moon is that people perceive you to be somebody who is a very powerful, group number 2, and that's a T of the situation. I see in the waning crescent too that a lot of people can be intimidated, a lot of people can be afraid to speak up or tell you their mind, which in some instances is helpful when you're trying to get your way, but in other instances feels as though like, oh, you wish people would just be honest. You wish people would stop being fearful of your reaction and instead understand that you would rather know the truth than later on be hurt by a lie. So group number 2, that is one thing that I can see here that may be kind of like an eternal struggle for you. Let me know down below if that resonates deeply. In the full moon, furthermore, I definitely see that that type of intimidating energy that you have may come from the fact that you've had to go through a lot to get to where you're at right now in life. It may come from the fact that you have had to fight, to struggle, to kind of like not take BS from anybody and stand up for yourself, and that has really molded you into who you are today. But let's move further into your reading. We have next up Dwell Cool, which is one thing that just shows that right now you are in a place where people feel as though you're taking one step at a time, and taking one step at a time is a very mature, wise, and just overall intelligent way to do things. People feel as though you're kind of cool about everything. You don't need to rush situations. You don't need to rush the process. You're okay with the process just simply playing out however it's supposed to play out. That's how people perceive you. Next up we have Hope. So in Hope, nevertheless, you're very loving and accepting. So you may be somebody who really hates inequality, or you just feel as though that this world would be a better place if there was a bit more acceptance and love, not only for ourselves in this earthly plane, but also for other people. And I do see here in Hope that people perceive you to be kind of like the spearhead, the leader when it comes to saying, let's protect the underdog, let's stand up for those who are different and show them that they are loved and that they are accepted in our society and community, and that they don't need to fear being kind of like left behind or ostracized, if you know what I mean. But let's move a little further into your reading to get more details on how people perceive you, group number 2. So next up we have Death, as well as the King of Bottles. One thing that I can see here in the King of Bottles is that people find you to be somebody who is a great listener. But I do see here in Death that people perceive you to be somebody where when it's over, it's over. You don't play any games, group number 2. And that again can feed into that aspect of intimidation, can feed into that aspect of people knowing that you won't take BS from them, let's just be real here, and not wanting to get too close because they fear that you may take something the wrong way. But I do see here in the King of Bottles that the people who understand you, your nature, and the fact that you're not here to play games and you don't like any type of childish relationships where you don't know where you stand and people are hot and cold all the time, those are the type of people that will get you, that you're attracting. And anybody who doesn't get it or kind of wants to play games or kind of likes the whole hot and cold in and out situation where once, you know, they're in the relationship and they're in the friendship and they're all present and the next day they're not, they're nowhere to be found, you kind of repel those people. Your energy keeps those people at bay, or at least mostly at bay, okay? There may still be some that slip through, some that are courageous enough to try to get closer to you and just see how far they can take it, but know that mostly you are a repellent for that. Next up, we have the Lovers. So in the Lovers, I see very harmonious energy that feeds into Hope, and just the fact that you have this understanding that love is something that we first need to cultivate in ourselves, in our surroundings, with our friends, our families, before love can really be something that comes romantically and comes so in a healthy form. And I also see here that people feel as though you're kind of like a skeptic when it comes to love. So while you may still have a very romantic side, you're also always very skeptical when it comes to getting to know somebody. That is one thing that I see in the King of Bottles, as well as Death. So it can make it hard for people to try and get closer to you emotionally, romantically, for fear of you not wanting to be in that space with them, and also just of course fear of rejection, but that's very natural and everybody fears that. Then we have the Knight of Cigarettes. So in the Knight of Cigarettes, I can see here that people see you as somebody who is very creative and very much like a doer, okay? People don't feel like you just talk a lot or like you'll just make up stories. People see you as somebody who will get it done. Like if the job needs to be done, they come to you. If there needs to be an idea that's brought into reality, if there's something that someone wants to develop, somebody wants to start, they will come to you to be that person to do the whole startup idea with, to create a new venture with. So that is one thing that I see in the Knight of Cigarettes that makes you a very valuable friend to have for a lot of people. Next up we have Hydrate. So group number 2, are you a little dehydrated? Just kidding, but honestly, in Hydrate, one thing that I can see is that people feel like you're very close to your emotions, yet very far away. So on one hand, you are an emotional being and you're somebody who will say how you feel, but then on the other hand, you are very quick to retract your attention emotionally. So it may be hard for you to develop real connections with people, deep connections, emotional connections. It may be something that you fear to a certain extent, but I do also see in Hydrate that once somebody has garnered your trust, they do feel as though you give it your all. You give the relationship your all, whether it's platonic or romantic. Then in a Listen to Your Body, I see here a lot of physical, how should I say, attractiveness, group number 2, and this is maybe something that you're not aware of or that you've only recently been made aware of if you feel like you've gone through a glow up. But I see here in Listen to Your Body that a lot of people see you as somebody who is physically on the attractive side, physically in a place that they would like to get to know better. They also want to know what you're doing, what your tricks are, how you're maintaining your skin, your body, your appearance, the way that it is, and how you're able to be healthy, how you're able to listen to your body. Now, group number 2, this is how people perceive you, okay? I know in the comment section I'll be hearing lots of comments about how you're not really doing anything and it's not highlight, it's just sweat. I feel ya, okay? I'm there right now, but know that people perceive you as somebody who is attractive, and just accept it, group number 2, okay? We can just leave it at that. Then last but not least, we have Unexpected. So you're full of surprises, you're full of unexpected situations, unexpected facets. So in you being a multifaceted being, group number 2, you surprise people in many instances with, for instance, how rugged you can be, how unbothered you can be in certain situations, and how much in control of your emotions you can be even when people are testing you. You surprise even those who have known you since you've been a kid, since birth. You surprise those people over and over again. So that keeps relationships with you very interesting. It keeps people wanting to be around you, wanting to be engaged with you, and just overall it allows for a friendship or relationship to have a dynamic that is just constantly full of opportunity and surprises. So group number 2, this is the reading that I received for you. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you found it insightful. I would just like to thank you so much for sharing this sacred space with me. Make sure that you leave a little bottle emoji down below in the comment section, a champagne bottle emoji, if you made it to the end of your reading, and I'll catch you in another video. Hello, group number number 3, and welcome to your reading. So you chose the orange calcite group number 3, which is just such a gorgeous gem, but let's move into your reading to figure out exactly how people perceive you. So we have the thunder moon as well as the waning gibbous 2. So one thing that I can see here in the thunder moon is that people perceive you to be somebody who is ever changing. You're constantly evolving, you're constantly updating your beliefs as well as your knowledge, which makes you somebody who heralds a lot of wisdom. But I do see here in the waning gibbous 2 that people also perceive you to be somebody who is a little bit of a daredevil, a little bit of a risk taker, somebody who is okay with taking a risk if it means that the rewards will be kind of like tenfold what the risk was. So not a risk taker in the sense of you just taking any old risk, but taking a calculated risk. You know what I mean, group number 3. So in the waning gibbous 2, I do want you to know that people perceive you as somebody who likes pleasure, okay? Not only in the romantic sense, but most likely also pleasure when it comes to food, when it comes to things in the earthly realms. You like luxurious things, you like the finer things, you just like to enjoy life to its fullest. Next up, we have the divine director. So in the divine director group number 3, one thing that I can see here is that people perceive you to be somebody who has happiness as their main purpose, and it's almost as though you're constantly being guided towards the path that will make not only you the happiest, but also the people around you. So your path is not only fulfilling for you, but it also allows you to create more value in this world. So know that if right now you're not 100% happy with your job or just your daily activities, the things that you do on a daily basis, know that no, this is not meant to be forever, and this is not your path. Your path entails a lot of happiness and is still out there for you, group number 3. So never give up when it comes to this aspect. Don't feel as though you are meant to have a relationship or be in a situationship that doesn't make you happy. That's not where you're destined to be. Next up, we have Odin. So in Odin, one thing that I can see here is that people perceive you to be somebody who has a lot of supernatural insight, who almost has this psychic ability, this sixth sense. When you feel like something is happening, something bad is going to happen, usually you're right. When you feel as though something is going to work out, usually you're right, group number 3, which is again why you like to take these calculated risks that we spoke about in the waning gibbous 2. So people trust your intuition, and when they're not sure about something, they like to call you up for clarification because they feel as though your sixth sense is on point. Then next up, we have Melchizedek. So in Melchizedek, one thing that I can see here is that people feel like you've really learned a lot from your past. You've taken a lot of lessons with you and you've been implementing those. And that's most likely also why you have a little bit of this daredevil type attitude, because no matter what happens, you know that if it's sink or swim, you're going to find a way to swim, group number 3, and that's just how it is. There is no situation that is too intimidating, no situation that's going to get you down, and people feel as though you're just somebody who somehow can always thrive, somebody who somehow always finds a way to make it work. Then next up, we have the 10 of cigarettes. So group number 3 in the 10 of cigarettes, I do see here that you can be slightly impatient. People view you as someone who is a little impatient, a little bit on the side of, can we just get it over with and stop talking about the nitty-gritty details? You're a very big picture kind of person, which is how you're perceived as on a regular basis. And in strength, I do see that a lot of people feel like you're very courageous, and you're just the type of person who is really not about excuses. You don't want to make excuses for difficult situations. You just want to power through them, get them done, and kind of not have them bother you anymore, which is why people perceive you to be somebody who is so strong. Then we have the 9 of cigarettes. So in the 9 of cigarettes, I do see here that a lot of people feel like you pour your heart and your soul into any creative ventures that you're working on, any creative ventures that are a part of your life, be it a personal venture or a venture that entails you completing a work project. You always put your all into it, which is so rare, especially in this day and age. And that is another one of your traits that people perceive to be as very valuable, and that's why a lot of people like to have you on their team. Next up, we have the Queen of Pills. So in the Queen of Pills, one thing that I see here furthermore in your reading is that people perceive you as maybe a little bit of a hoarder, okay, a little bit of keeping, for instance, your funds and the things that you really love, the earthly things that you really love, to yourself, really thinking long and hard about how you spend your time, who you spend your time with. So being assertive with all of your earthly things, be it how you spend your money, how you spend your time. And the people who have an issue with that, okay, don't feel as though this is something that is not good. Group number 3, remind yourself that if somebody has an issue with how you kind of use everything that you have in the earthly realms, that each and every one of us has. I mean, we all have a certain amount of time here in the earthly realm. We all have a certain amount of money that we have to use, to live with. We can of course create more of that, but when people start to get entitled with your earthly belongings, know that that's when you really need to watch your back. Make sure that you're not being used when it comes to those things. So moving a little further into your reading, we have alternatives. So people perceive you to be somebody who has a very alternative type of style, okay, very eclectic, very different. You're not like everybody else, okay? You are the person who laughs at Karen memes, and you're actually not a Karen, and you're actually not like quote unquote basic. You know how we like to say it in our culture. So I want you to know here in alternative that being different means that you stand out, but it's not just, you know, the whole funny not being a Karen thing. It can sometimes be a lonely place, and people perceive you to be somebody who is just fine standing on their own 2 feet, even if it means that you're the only person in that particular corner. But they sometimes forget that you're not made out of stone. They sometimes forget that you like to belong too. You like that feeling of it being invited and belonging, and just because you're strong doesn't mean that you don't feel alone sometimes, or doesn't mean that you don't feel left out at times. Next up, we have control. So I see here in control that people perceive you to be somebody who has their ish together, group number 3. Now, this is how people perceive you. You may not feel that way, but I do want you to know in control, as well as control being here in correspondence to the number 10, which is the number that completes a cycle in the minor arcana, from 0, from the ace to 10, that people do feel as though you have everything sorted out, and as though everything is working well in your life, which is sometimes why you're being put forth on the chopping board, or you're being called into a group to help and make things work, because people feel like, well, you know, your life is going just fine, and they probably have bigger problems than you, but little do they know what you're actually dealing with. Next up, we have a well-being. So group number 3, in well-being, one thing that I do see here is that people perceive you to be somebody who, just as we spoke about, has a high sense of well-being in their life, as in being healthy, being in a fortunate position that a lot of people are envious of. And I do see here in well-being that that can sometimes be a point of contention when people feel as though maybe you have more time or more energy, but you're just sitting here thinking, look, I have the exact same 24 hours in my day to get my things done, and I prioritize the things that I need to, and that's why things run the way they do in my life. So this is something that can be a bit difficult to handle when people expect certain things from you, or people want to already jump to conclusions about you. But one thing that I do want you to know in how people perceive you is that nevertheless, they are in a way respectful of your decisions when you come to that point where you say up until this point and no further. I mean, there are always those people who like to overstep boundaries, but they're like that with everybody. Trust me, group number 3. So at group number 3, we are at the end of your reading. I truly hope that you enjoyed it and that it gave you some insight as to how people perceive you. Thank you so much for joining me in this beautiful, beautiful space today. I hope you're doing amazing, and I'll catch you in my next video. Hello group number 4 and welcome to your reading. So you chose the Pyrite group number 4, which is also known as the Fool's Gold. This is an absolutely stunning gold colored crystal. I love it so much, but I do want to point out group number 4, never mix this crystal with water. It is toxic, okay? So make sure that you always protect yourself when trying to infuse your crystals in any type of way. So we have the Waxing Gibbous 4 as well as the Hot Moon. So group number 4, one thing that I can see here in the Hot Moon is that people feel as though you're highly attractive, okay? People feel as though you're the type of person that they want to get physical with. So group number 4, in the Waning Gibbous 4, I do see that in a way, because you are this type of person that can sometimes be very aloof of this, so you don't even notice that people are attracted to you or people would find you attractive. I see here in the Waxing Gibbous 4 that it can take a lot of kind of like willpower for people to get closer to you, for people to be able to show you that, because they'll make these little hints, okay? They'll make these little comments or feel as though they are showing you that they really care or like they are attracted to you, but you just won't even notice. So what they have to do is literally tell you, group number 4, like, hey, I find you attractive, I find you really hot, I really want to get to know you better. That's the only way that people feel as though you will get it. Moving further into your reading, we have the Waning Crescent 5. In the Waning Crescent 5, you're kind of like a very peaceful person. That's the type of appearance that you have to others. Others perceive you as somebody who doesn't want any drama, is kind of just about themselves, and you're just all about your business and keeping yourself contained in your circle and your realm that is filled with positivity and people who you can trust and people who you can rely on. Next up, we have boundaries. So in the Waxing Gibbous 3, I do see here that people find you not only to be most comfortable in a peaceful environment, but also somebody who kind of insists on it. So you set strong boundaries. People feel like they can't go too far. People feel as though they can't stretch your niceness all that far because you set those boundaries early on in relationships. So I do see here in the Waxing Gibbous 3 that boundaries can sometimes put you in a little bubble, can sometimes make you a little bit of a loner, especially if you don't agree with peer pressure or you don't agree with just overall society standards and how that can affect people's mental state. So that is one thing that I can see here that people find interesting in you and people find to be very different when they speak to you versus other people. Then we have Melchizedek as well as Horus. One thing that I can see here in Horus is that people perceive you to be the type of person who is a magic manifester, group number 4. So anything that you kind of speak into existence or have just briefly mentioned that you want to accomplish, people feel like you come back weeks, months, sometimes years later, and all of a sudden you've done it. All of a sudden you've accomplished it. So people feel like you're really a magnet for everything that you desire. And in Melchizedek, I see that they want to learn that from you. They want to learn the ability to manifest. They want to learn the ability to create a life just like you've created your life for yourself. And sometimes they can feel as though not as much work has gone into it as you know really has. So I do want you to know here in Melchizedek that sometimes people can underestimate just how much knowledge you have, how much wisdom you have, and how much you've been through, how much you've had to put into your situation in order to be able to be where you are today. So being underestimated can really suck, group number 4. Trust me, been there, done that. But for some of us, it's just a part of life, and it feels even better when you can then kind of prove the person wrong when they're not expecting it. Next up, we have the Ace of Pills. So when it comes to romantic relationships, people perceive you to be somebody who is very open to seeing where things go. You're able to give people a chance, which often astonishes people because, as I said, they find you attractive, and it can be very hard for people to come up and just speak to you because your demeanor, the way you're kind of just about your business, shows that you're very secure, you're very self-confident in who you are, which can be intimidating in not an aggressive type of way, but just in a way that makes people think, oh, okay, this person is very secure about themselves. They may see how insecure I am about myself or how afraid I am of them rejecting me. But nevertheless, in the Ace of Pills, you still have this kind of air around you that allows for people to know as soon as they've gotten through that first boundary of speaking to you that you are in fact actually very open-minded, and you are the type of person that doesn't really judge other people romantically. Next up, we have the Moon. So people perceive you to be somebody who is very instinctual, who listens to their gut feeling, and in a way is also a spiritual being. In a way is also a being that you can't compare to others when it comes to your connection to the cosmos, your connection to the universe, which is most likely also why people tend to be less and less baffled at how much they see you manifesting, because it just becomes a part of you, it just becomes a part of your existence and people's perception of you. Furthermore, in the Moon, you're also pretty mysterious. People usually don't know where they stand unless they know you. People often wonder what really goes on in your life and what you do when you're all by yourself or when you're not hanging out with them. So that can sometimes attract a little bit of nosiness. That can sometimes attract people who can try and be all up in your business, but that's where you just set those boundaries. Group number 4. Let's move further into your reading. We have positive-minded people. So to a bystander, you are that positive-minded person. You are that person who sees the glass as half full. You're that person who is just all about opportunity rather than seeing lack. Your mindset is all about how can we make this work? How can we find a solution, rather than just saying, well, this is just how it is. You are the type of person that people see as a leader because you're positive-minded, because you're the type of person who wants everything to work peacefully, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that you're a pushover, and it doesn't mean that you'll take no for an answer. So you're always looking at things in a relentlessly optimistic way, which is what people love about you. Group number 4. Then we have progress. So progress really just does stem from you being so optimistic, from you being that person that is so positive-minded, and you are progressive in your nature. That's how people feel that you are. Group number 4. You are forward thinking. So when something new comes out, even if it's about gender roles, whether it's about the environment, you will inform yourself. You think in a very progressive manner, and you're willing to accept what is coming next. You're willing to accept people's opinions who are dealing with difficulties. You're willing to accept the new facts that are coming out about the environment, about evolution, whatever it is. You are innovative, you're on your feet, and you want to be a part of the latest. That is how people perceive you as. Then last but not least, we have a release. So in release, one thing that I can see here, group number 4, is that people perceive you as somebody who is able to just let it all out. Okay, you're the type of person who will scream if you need to scream, you'll dance if you need to dance. People find you to be somebody who is able to release because you're comfortable in your body, you're comfortable in who you are. Now, group number 4, this is how people perceive you, maybe not necessarily how you feel every single day. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are or how quote-unquote attractive you are by society's standards. We all have our good days, our bad days, days where we just don't even want to look ourselves in the eye, look in the mirror. So I completely get that, but to other people, you are that one who sees no challenge in being themselves, who sees no challenge in doing something weird. You're that person who is straight up going to embarrass everybody because nothing embarrasses you. That's how people perceive you, group number 4. So we are at the end of your reading, group number 4. I truly hope that you enjoyed this reading. I hope that you found it insightful and that it gave you a good idea as to how people perceive you. If you made it all the way to the end of your reading, leave a little bird emoji down down below. Let's do a pigeon emoji. I don't think we've ever done that. And also make sure that you let me know what hit home for you, what you felt really resonated with you as a person. I hope you're staying safe, group number 4. I hope you're doing amazing, and I'll catch you in another video.